All right, I just wanted to make a quick intro video explaining some of the aspects of the course so that the first day of class isn't so overwhelming and that we can get right into the math. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday on a typical week, you're going to be on your own, but hopefully you're reading the text or studying definitions or working on homework. And then Tuesday, Thursday, we come to class and we're going to be talking with each other a lot, having discussions with me. It's going to be pretty interactive. I'm going to try to have notes for every class so that you can, so that almost everything is written down so you can pay more attention to what I'm saying and to the conversations instead of trying to furiously scribble everything down. That's the plan. Hopefully I'll be able to keep up with the blank notes, but you should plan on bringing those to class either like a printed version or on an iPad or something like that. I do want to talk about a technology that you're going to need. So if you go to the Canvas course, the second module here, you're going to need to download Respondus Lockdown Browser. If you just click on this page, it'll bring you to the download. Just download the right one. And then once you have it downloaded, then you should go and see if it actually works. And this is what this technology check quiz is for, just to make sure that works, because you're going to need this to take definition quizzes, and we'll talk about those in more detail in a little bit. But make sure you do that right away. Yeah. So, oh yeah, statement of informed consent right here. This is just to make sure that or this allows me to write papers about teaching and then to use like your work and your quizzes and things like that in order to communicate with other math educators, things that work and things that don't work. I'm never going to include any of your personal information in the data, right? It's like clean data or scrubbed data, in the sense that nobody will ever be able to trace it back to you. I just use, like I might use a sample of your work or class averages and things like that. So you're going to get these 2 points, whether you say yes to the informed consent or no, and I'm not going to look at it till the end of the semester, so it's not going to affect your grade either way. So fill that out. All right, let's just tell you about what a typical week is going to look like. I view it as like a 3-week cycle. So week 1, we're going to have a definition quiz, a fail-success homework, a homework check-in, and then a weekly question. So let's talk about like what each of those things are. So week 1, here you can see the notes. These are the notes that you'll need access to for class. Here's the chapters from the textbook. You can also download the textbook if you're on campus, because we should all have access to it. Anyway, here's the definition list. So these are the list of the definitions. So, and then when you're ready, you've studied those definitions, and you just take the definition quiz, literally like whenever. It's due on Sunday. But you just have to, essentially, I think there's like 10-ish definitions, and then this quiz just draws 3 or 4 of them at random, and then you type them in, and that's it. And then I have to go back in and grade it. But for this definition quiz, you need Respondus Lockdown Browser. That's why I want you to take care of this this technology like right away. And then we have a fail success reflection. These are due every other week. Here, let me click on it quick so I can show you. It's pretty self-explanatory, but essentially you write 5 paragraphs, like a page, maybe 2, should take 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, depending on how much you like writing. But 1 paragraph about a failure or a setback or a struggle that happened like very recently. I want these to be very relevant, like some setback or obstacle in the last week or 2, something that you're proud of from the last week or 2. A paragraph about something you learned. It could be like mathematical in nature, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Could be, you learned how to manage your time or something like that. And then paragraphs 4 and 5, we'll talk about this a lot more in class, but you're gonna write about toxic perfectionism culture in this first week, and then week 3 you'll write about a different topic, But in any event, the first 3 paragraphs are all the same, and then the last 2 always change. I do have an overleaf template that you should use. I use overleaf a lot, so I have lots of overleaf templates. So if you don't have an overleaf account, you should make one. But here is what the template looks like. Once you go here, note you should go to the menu and then click on Copy Project, and then you can start filling out the assignment. But again, right, this week I failed at, what were you proud of, what did you learn, and then these 2 reflective paragraphs about toxic perfectionism. And if you forget what toxic perfectionism was from our in-class conversation, here's the symptoms of toxic perfectionism, and then here's the antidote. And that'll be available every week. And then homework 1 check-in. So the reason I say that the class runs in 3-week cycles is because homework is due every 3 weeks. And I found that when I don't have this homework check-in, students kind of put off the homework until right before it's due, and that's just not good for anybody. So every week I want you to be working on the homework for at least like 2 hours. And this is a really low stakes assignment in the sense that it's not worth very many points. And I'm just checking to make sure that you've put in some time and effort. I'm not grading it for accuracy. So, and I will give you feedback on whatever you turn in. So if you just turn in like a full proof, I will give you full feedback on your proof. If you just turn in like an outline of the proof or a sketch of some ideas, I will indicate these are good ideas, you should keep pursuing them, or like they're not good, or you need to rearrange the argument or things like that. But it's a really low stakes assignment, and it's a way to get us having some sort of a conversation about the homework. And then every week you also ask a question. This is a question from really any part of the course. Like, is there something you want me to prove? Or is there something you want me to reprove? Something we talked about in class that didn't make sense, or something on the homework that doesn't make sense, or something from the practice problems that didn't make sense. So it's just another opportunity for us to open a line of communication. And then I'll pick 1 or 2 of those questions every week and make a video response and try to clear some things up for you. So that's week 1. And then week 2, we have an in-class quiz. In-class quizzes are take a little bit more preparation than a definition quiz, but I will give you a list of questions, right? And we'll talk about it a little bit more, but it's in class on Thursdays, and you'll have plenty of time to prep for that. And then week 2, you're going to have a Frayer model. Frayer model, again, there's an assignment in Canvas, and you go to this link, this overleaf link, and here you are, and then you click on menu, copy project. So what a Frayer model does is it's a way to help you dig into an idea that is really interesting or cool to you, or something that you're really confused about. I would say most students find it most beneficial to dig into something confusing, because essentially by the end of this assignment you should be unconfused. But anyway, you pick a topic, write it here, and then tell me the formal definition, the informal definition. This is just kind of like in your own words. This can be hard, but also really helpful. Is this word or phrase or idea, is it a noun? Is it an adjective? Like, what do you do with it? What does it describe? Create a non-example and an example. These are really important. These are really helpful for understanding mathematical objects, as if you can figure out something that's not one of those things and then something that is one of those things. Making connections with past mathematics classes or past mathematics experiences. Like, did this term remind you of some other term from Calc 1 or Calc 2 or linear algebra or something like that? What types of questions can be asked about this term? Like, here I'm trying to get you to predict like quiz and exam questions or homework questions, things like that, to get you thinking about, okay, what types of interesting things could we ask? What are some things that you still don't understand, and then anything else that you find interesting? This might take a little longer than the fail success reflection, maybe like 40 minutes to an hour, depending. But that's due every even week, essentially, right? It'll be fail success, fair model, fail success, fair model, fail success, fair model, so on and so forth. And then week 2, again, we have the homework check-in, weekly question, pretty standard. Week 3, we go back to definition quiz, fail success. The homework is due, and then there's a struggle is real assignment. Struggle is real is essentially, right, again, here's the overleaf template. There's this book called Living Proof. It's written by professional mathematicians. You can download it here if you're on campus. It'll automatically download. If you're not on campus, it won't. But anyway, you read 2 of the stories and then do some reflective questions about it. So this is going to happen 3 times throughout the semester. So you're going to read a total of 6 stories, at least 6 stories. Some people read more. And then you're going to write your own little math story. So this is an assignment that you could finish like today if you wanted to. There's no prerequisite stuff. Although sometimes I find like, doing these when I suggest they be done can be pretty helpful. I think I'm going to take that back. I would wait until the semester starts before doing these. Maybe you could do the first one, but maybe wait on the second one and the third one. Because I think being in the class might be helpful to make these assignments a little more relevant. Okay, yeah, and then week 4 we start over. We got a new homework, so homework check, and then homework 2 is due, and then week 7 is the exam. And then week 8 through 14 is essentially just this thing repeated. So that's that. Definition quizzes. Maybe let's dive into a few details. Again, I provide the list ahead of time, and you take online whenever you feel ready. In-class quizzes, I provide a list ahead of time, and then I just choose some questions from that list. The quizzes there's going to be some definitions, some computations, and some proofs. Homework is almost exclusively proofs with some computations. Again, I got those weekly check-ins for low-stakes feedback. Struggle is real. We just talked about that. Fail success reflection. We talked about that. Frayer model. We talked about that. Exams are like the in-class quizzes, but longer and harder. The goal is to have a list of definitions, computations, and proofs for the exam, as long as I can stay ahead of the course. Right, because I like to, kind of take stock of how we're doing and how we're struggling, what we're struggling with, what we feel good about. Like I have an idea of what this exam is going to look like, and I have lots of questions, but I'm not really sure where we're going to be when the exam rolls around. So, but I should be able to get you a list of questions that'll be on the exam, just so you have like a pool of questions, so you have a good idea of what you need to focus on. There's a math art project that's going to be fun. Be creative as you want, but it just has to be mathematical. The proof portfolio is a big part of the class. It's worth, I think, 200 points, and each of the 2 exams is worth 100 points, so it's worth just as much as the exams. Essentially, what you have to do with that is you're going to pick 4 proofs from throughout the course and just kind of talk about the techniques, right? You're going to pick one that you're really proud of, and then reflect on it. You're going to pick one that was really bad and fix it. So things like that. And then week 8, like halfway through the semester, I'm just going to have a check-in, pretty low stakes check-in. I want you to have at least started it and, at least have a draft done. And then week 14, it'll be totally due. Student hours are virtual Monday, Wednesday, 10 to noon, and 1:30 to 3:30. And then if those times don't work, always by request. And then there's this other thing that I do. It's anonymous feedback right here. Anonymous feedback, just because there's a power dynamic going on in the classroom where, I have the power and you have less power because you're a student, and sometimes there are things that you want to tell me, but you're afraid to tell me because you think it might, affect your grade or affect our relationship or whatever. Anyway, if there's any feedback that you have for me, things that you think need to change in the classroom or whatever, ideally you just talk to me and we have a conversation. But if that isn't in the cards for whatever reason, you can leave this anonymous feedback, and I will check in on that regularly and then have a class discussion based on that, if I think it's necessary. So I think that's it. Week 1 is all set. Still working on building week 2 and week 3. We're getting there though. Yeah, email me if you all have any questions, and I'm looking forward to meeting you all.